Hey there and welcome. Today we are diving into a really simple but super powerful framework for looking at pretty much any investment you can think of. It's called FLIRR. It's a 5-point checklist that's all about bringing some much-needed clarity to your financial decisions.
So, have you ever felt just completely overwhelmed by all the investment choices out there? You've got stocks, bonds, crypto, real estate, the list goes on, and they're all screaming for your attention, right? But trying to compare them, really compare them, apples to apples, can feel impossible. So how do you cut through all that noise?
I absolutely love this quote from financial planner Carl Richards. It just perfectly nails the huge gap between the shiny, exciting promise of an investment and, well, the harsh reality of its costs and all the complexities. The tool we're talking about today is designed to bridge that exact gap.
To really see past all the marketing hype and understand what you're actually getting yourself into, you need a system. You need a structured approach that lets you look at any investment through the same critical lens. It's basically like pulling out a magnifying glass to inspect all the little details.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with what I call the investment maze. Then we'll introduce the FLIRR framework itself. We'll break down each of the 5 criteria, and then we'll see it in action with a real-world example using ETFs. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with an investor checklist you can take with you. Okay, first up, let's really define the core challenge that every single investor faces. Because, the world of investing, it can really feel like a maze, and it is shockingly easy to get lost.
And here's the thing. While every investment is sold to you on its amazing potential for growth, the really crucial details are often buried in the fine print. They all have different costs, totally different rules for getting your money back, and of course, wildly different levels of risk. If you don't have a map, you're basically just wandering around in the dark.
So, how do we navigate this maze? Well, this is where our framework comes in. I want you to think of it as your own personal compass.
FLIRR is just a simple acronym for the 5 absolute pillars of any investment. That's F for fees, L for liquidity, I for taxation, R for return, and the other R for risk. It's simple, it's memorable, and believe me, it is powerful.
What this framework does is turn a really complex decision into a straightforward 5-step process. By just going through each of these points one by one, you can build a really complete picture of any investment and, hopefully, avoid some of those nasty surprises down the road.
All right, let's break down each letter of FLIRR. This way you'll know exactly what questions you should be asking for every single investment you look at.
First up, F is for fees. Now, this is probably the most overlooked factor, but it has a direct, guaranteed impact on your profit. And we're not just talking about one fee. Oh no, you've got entry fees, exit fees, management fees, custody fees, even fees for not doing anything. The main takeaway here is always compare the fees because they are a guaranteed drag on your returns.
Next, we have L for liquidity. This is a huge question. How quickly can you turn your investment back into cold, hard cash without losing a bunch of money in the process? And the difference can be massive. A stock ETF might be available in 48 hours, but selling a piece of property, that could take months or even years. It all depends on your personal situation and when you might need that money. Then we've got I for taxation. An investment might be advertised with a fantastic 10% return, but that's the gross number. What you actually get to keep in your pocket is the net return, after the taxman gets his slice. Different assets are taxed in different ways, so understanding the tax side is absolutely key to knowing what your real profit will be.
The first R is return. This is the part everybody gets excited about, right? But notice the key words here, potential and realistically. Past performance is never a guarantee of future results. So the question isn't just what could I make, it's what's a reasonable expectation for my return after all the fees and taxes are paid out.
And finally, the second R is for risk. This is the other side of the return coin. You can't have one without the other. There is no return without risk. This question forces you to be really honest with yourself. How much of a drop in your investment's value can you stomach? Answering that helps you pick assets that will actually let you sleep at night.
All right, so we've covered all the theory. Now let's put the FLIRR framework into practice with something a lot of people invest in, exchange-traded funds, or ETFs. This table is a fantastic way to see the framework in action. It lets us compare different kinds of ETFs side by side using our FLIRR grid. So for instance, just look at the contrast between a bond ETF and a crypto ETF. The bond ETF, low fees, low to moderate risk, and a low to moderate return to match.
But on the other end of the spectrum, the crypto ETF has a very high potential return, but it also comes with higher fees and, you guessed it, very high risk. This grid doesn't tell you what to choose, but it makes the trade-offs crystal clear. So you can see how powerful this simple framework is. Let's wrap this all up and turn it into a checklist you can use every single time you think about making an investment.
Here it is, your takeaway cheat sheet. For fees, just remember they directly eat into your gains. For liquidity, always ask how long it's going to take to get your money back. For taxation, always think about the net return, not the gross. For return, know that it's just a potential, never a promise. And for risk, be honest with yourself about your tolerance for loss.
And that's really the beauty of it all. The FLIRR framework isn't about some kind of complex financial modeling. It's just a simple, solid mental model, a grid, to make sure you've covered all your bases and you're making a decision with your eyes wide open. So I'll leave you with this question. Now that you have this framework, which one of these criteria is the most important for you? For a young investor with tons of time, maybe return and risk are everything. But for someone getting closer to retirement, liquidity and lower risk might be at the very top of the list. There's no single right answer, but the FLIRR framework makes sure you're asking the right questions for your own unique situation.